Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by hunky, hairy, huggable homos to review films and discuss movie news. As usual, I'm joined by my wonderful, wonderful co-hosts, Jim Pugliafico.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast, everyone.
And Will Lindis.
Hey, viewers, listeners, welcome back.
We are also delighted to welcome a personal friend to the show this week. He's done some various work that he'll talk about on his own here in just a couple minutes, but Mark Gelfuso, it's a total pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. It'll be really fun to chat with you guys. I'm looking forward to see where this goes. So fun.
Indeed, indeed. So big show this week. We are reviewing How to Train Your Dragon 2, the new How to Train Your Dragon flick from writer-director Dean DuBois. We'll also be sharing a little bit of movie news here shortly, but first let's spend a little time getting to know you, Mark. So
wonderful.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, well, currently, my background is actually in CG animated feature films, working as a layout and lighting artist, which is both. It's mostly like the cinematography of the animation products. Layout referring to camera blocking, character blocking, camera animation, and then that information goes down the pipe to the animation team where they actually perform the acting to the characters themselves, and then lighting speaks for itself. I'm actually taking a break on those types of shows, and right now working on my first video game project. And so right now I'm employed with a company called Bungie and working on this game called Destiny. So that's basically what I'm up to right now.
That's awesome. And how fitting that we have you on a CGI visual movie review this week. It's almost like it was planned that way.
Maybe.
Well, there's definitely a lot in the visual realm to talk about maybe with this movie. And so, Mark, it would be good to kind of get your insight into what you saw in this movie, what maybe when we go to see it again, because I definitely want to see it again, what to look for. What like you said before you were doing the video game thing, what movies have you actually worked on?
Well, I'll kind of break down my resume very quickly, so not to bore. My background's actually in live action filmmaking, and so I was a camera assistant. I pulled focus. I also operated camera work, and I did that for about 4 years. And then work went up to Vancouver. This was like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and so I decided to go get my master's degree, so I applied all of my film knowledge towards animation. And so then that finished, and then I was unemployed for God knows how long, because it always takes a long time to get work after school. But then once I started getting work, I fell into doing layout, basically camera work and layout work first. So my first series of projects was the last remaining episodes of Jimmy Neutron, and that led to film work on The Ant Bully, made by the same production company. And then after that, I've went on to do projects for both layout and lighting on the Clone Wars TV show. Then I worked on, I've worked on fun projects like G-Force, that film with the guinea pigs, the covert operative guinea pigs.
Oh yeah.
And then I worked on.
I'm a big guinea pig fan.
Yeah, they were quite cooperative. They didn't really ask for their limos, or they didn't ask for weird things from the craft service. So they're a good bunch of guys. Then I worked on this movie called Legends of the Guardians, which is known as the Owl movie.
Yes.
And what else? After that, I worked on Arthur Christmas, and then from there, I went back into live action, and I helped out on Prometheus for a while. And then what else? Prometheus, World War Z, and then Wreck-It Ralph, Epic, and then Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs too. So, and then
wow.
So basically, you have no expertise at all in any.
I know nothing. Well, I would never say. I've been doing it for a while, but I'm no expert. But that's the beauty of working in this industry is you always learn, even from like new people that come in, first job, first timers. They may have a trick up the sleeve that you don't know. So it's always refreshing. So I never.
Especially for such a quickly evolving field, like CGI in the grand scheme of things is something that's, not an old science. It's something that's evolving and growing and changing every year. So with what you've been doing, you know, obviously all your impressive resume and the video games that you're working on with Bungie, like, where do you see the field going next, and how do you see yourself like moving within that field? Like, what's on the horizon?
I feel like I'm in a job interview.
I know, right?
Tell us about your greatest opportunity, Mark.
The greatest opportunity. As far as the future, you know, it's so difficult to really pinpoint because it is evolving, and it evolves and it breaks, or evolves and actually becomes successful. It's tough. Gosh, I'd have to sit there and think about it. I mean, because I could speak from a video game standpoint, which is, you know, it's, gosh, I don't know. I think definitely, slowly but surely, I think possibly a little more realism. However, you don't want to go Final Fantasy to realism, where it freaks people out too much because it's really odd looking. I mean, and Dragon 2 is a prime example of that. I think DreamWorks set the bar really, really high on style and, I guess, real-world physics, like a combination of both, you know. And what they did was quite impressive. I have a fair amount of people that worked on that project, and they all did a bang-up job. So, but I mean, that really didn't answer the question. But I hope, what I do hope is like, technology can always improve, but it seems like sometimes story doesn't improve, and so I just hope that maybe, you know, you can always improve technology, but also think about the story. You know, don't make a movie just because you can make great visual effects. Godzilla. So you can.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I'm kind of with you. Yeah.
Yeah. But in any case, I mean, I think
we're gonna throw down on that.
Well,
I got your back, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Pacific Rim.
As far as I haven't really. I've been too busy with my current projects to actually attend conventions and conferences that talk about new technologies, and so I just really haven't. I've kind of untapped myself, unfortunately, from that. But it's a good point. I probably should re-tap into that. So,
double tap, if you will.
Double tap, yes.
Always double tap.
Always double tap.
All right. Well, Mark, like I said earlier, we're super excited to have you on the show this week. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely
the interview.
I passed it.
You got the
You got the job. That's the good news is you got the job. The bad news is we don't pay anything.
Yeah.
But there are other rewards, I will say.
There may be. There could be. T-shirts, you know, stuff like that. Oh, I know.
No T-shirts, yes.
No shirts. No shirts. Rewards without shirts on. I mean, anyway. All right, so moving right along, because we have a lot to discuss this week, let's get into some movie news. All right, so this is the part of the show where we like to talk about fun stuff that's piqued our interest. This week, Jim, why don't you kick us off? What do you got?
Sure. Hitfix.com let out a story this week about a guy named Jason Momoa from the first season of Game of Thrones. He played Khal Drogo, for you guys that watch, few people that watch Game of Thrones. He's being named as Aquaman in the upcoming Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice movie, which I guess basically has become a prequel. We talked about this before, to Justice League, which is rumored to arrive, I guess, in 2017, maybe. And anyway, so being a movie mainly about Batman and Superman, this could, you know, Aquaman, I don't know how he fits, like, in Justice League. I'm not a big, you guys know I'm not a big comic fan, so I think Aquaman is one of the Justice League members, but in this particular movie, Batman versus v Superman, I don't know how big of a role an Aquaman would have. I don't know if this is big news to you guys. But certainly, if Aquaman was kind of thought of as kind of like one of the more wimpy superheroes, this dude has the chops to bring some real menace to the role. I mean, maybe he could bring something totally different to Aquaman that we haven't seen before. I don't know if that would piss off the comic fans or not, but what do you guys think of the announcement?
Well, I'm just terribly upset that Aquaman won't be a blonde. Come on.
won't be a blonde? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You know, I've loved Jason Momoa since before it was cool to love Jason Momoa, and that was when I was watching Stargate Atlantis when he played one of the main characters on that show named Ronan. I really liked him as an actor, and I loved him in Game of Thrones. You know, spoiler alert: Game of Thrones. He doesn't make it out of season 1, so I was kind of bummed that he didn't continue in that show. I know, shock and awe.
Shocker!
Oh, spoilers for Game of Thrones.
I said
Another
spoilers.
shock. I've never seen one episode of Game of Thrones. I know.
What?
So anyway, he's gone from
So thanks for ruining everything. Thanks.
Yeah, I know, right?
He's gone from Ronan to Conan to Khal Drogo to Aquaman.
Yeah. It's gonna be cool, I think. Aquaman in the comics, there's a lot of different iterations with him, just like with any other long-standing character, right? You know, you have a character that's around for decades. Like, you're gonna have some versions that are, you know, that go off this way or go off that way. But a lot of the iterations of Aquaman, he's kind of a badass. But a lot of people that haven't read a lot of the comics are probably more used to, like, the I Talk to Dolphins Super Friends version, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting. I think the comic
fans.
fans. Yeah, I think the comic fans are going to be okay with it because we're used to seeing, like, there was a long time where he didn't have a hand; he just had a hook for a hand and fuck things up with it. So I think comic fans are going to be okay with it, and I think that maybe people that are only used to Super Friends might be, you know, maybe they'll have the chance to see him do something a little different than before. So I think ultimately it's a good move. We'll see if you know. My problem with the film is potentially that there's too many things crammed into one movie, and that might sacrifice the story. We'll see how that goes. But just as a casting decision, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, Aquaman has come a long way since the days of, you know what I mean? Like, Super Friends Aquaman was cheesy and totally like the gay man, I guess, of the Super Friends. Like, he was always accessorizing his scales and, you know, whatever the fuck. But I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. I don't know. Mark, what do you think of
I have honestly no opinion to that.
No?
Funny enough, it's like I used to see every film, I used to watch a lot of TV, and then as soon as I started working in this industry, it's like I find myself watching less and less movies and watching less and less TV. I guess my interest lies more into stuff that I'm not working on or things that I would like. For example, like one of my favorite films of the year is this movie called Under the Skin. If you haven't seen it, did you guys see it? Did you review it?
We reviewed that bitch.
You did. Okay, I'm not going to get off topic, but that movie is like right now the movie of the year as far as I'm concerned. I find that interesting. Just like I probably would find Aquaman interesting just because I don't know much about him, you know, and I know a lot about the popular guys, right? You know, I've seen the Batman movies, I've seen the Superman movies, but Aquaman, as far as when I was a kid watching the cartoon show, he was just kind of, he did the same thing. I mean, he was good for like one thing or two things, you know, and that's about it. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. I think as a character, I think I'd be interested in just seeing how he would evolve and what they would do with him.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, like many of you, with maybe the exception of Will, I only know him through the Super Friends cartoon, and that was kind of the wimpy, not so interesting superhero guy with the like aquamarine jumpsuit or whatever he was wearing. But you know, who knows? I mean, with this, they could definitely add some meat, you know, some meanness or muscle to this role. We'll see what happens. It sounds interesting. We'll talk about why you think the Batman v Superman has too much crammed in it when every other week we're getting Star Wars announcements, but we'll save that discussion. We'll save that discussion for another day.
All right. Will, what have you got?
Well, speaking of Star Wars casting, no, I don't have a Star Wars casting announcement this week. This is actually about a casting decision that, like, it's for a film that's coming out in 2015 from one of my absolute favorite directors, Ben Wheatley. By the way, look up Ben Wheatley on Google. He is absolutely adorable. Fans of this show will know exactly.
Now I know why you like him. I'm going to look him up right now. Go ahead, keep talking.
So he's a fantastic director, British director who does dark comedy extremely well. He's actually doing he's directing the first 2 episodes of the next season of Doctor Who. But the casting news for him is he's got a film coming out in 2015, starring both Tom Hiddleston, who you'll recognize as Loki from the Avengers, and Luke Evans, who was in the Hobbit films. I'm super psyched about this because up till now, a lot of Ben Wheatley's films have been with his kind of same crew of actors. You'll see a lot of the same actors in a lot of his films. So having Luke Evans and Tom Hiddleston come on board with this new film, it's called High Rise, is really exciting. It's like a next step up for a personal favorite director of mine. So really, my news item is just hey, be on the lookout for this film next year called High Rise. His films are always really, really weird, really, really out there. Maybe not for everybody, but to me they're super satisfying. And hey, it's got, again, Tom Hiddleston and Luke Evans, so it's worth checking out.
That's all right, Will. Let your free
superheroes. Have you guys seen this trailer for a movie called Birdman?
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't go there. That's my plug.
Oh, is that your plug? Okay. You know, there's this movie called
Go ahead.
Have you seen that one? That one's good.
Yeah.
No. We can definitely talk Birdman. I had it on as my plug. I saw the trailer this week. We'll definitely get into that.
All right. I'm not gonna.
And by the way, Will, Ben Wheatley, short hair Ben Wheatley, yes. Long hair, no.
Yeah, it's short hair Ben Wheatley is where it's at.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, let's see. For me, I don't have movie news. Can I do Movie Bearers podcast news?
Yeah.
Does that count?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's the biggest news of all.
So we started this little podcast December of year before last, so a year and a half ago at this point. And I just remember looking at all these other like film podcast giants and thinking, oh my God, like look at their social, networking following. Like, holy crap, our podcast will never ever be that big. And we were crunching some numbers today and looking, and just realized we surpassed one of the biggest of them all in likes on Facebook. And I won't mention names because that's not why we're saying
like
it.
grandstanding a little.
Yeah, but I thought it was pretty awesome to see that. Like, a year and a half ago, I thought, holy God, we'll never get an audience on that level, and now we have, and I don't know really how it happened, but I just wanted to say we really appreciate you guys sticking with the show and letting your friends know about it, and holy crap, it's gotten pretty big. I just hope we can continue putting out a good product for you guys.
It's gotten big, all right.
That's that's awesome. And I think it says that people are passing the word on to their bear friends or whatever, and that's that's how we're we just want to be out there and be heard, and we'd like to even have people participate with comments and stuff. We're just a bunch of guys who love to talk movies, and I know there's a big component in our community of other people who are fans of movies too. So, I mean, that's all we want to do.
Absolutely.
Especially right now, for anyone that's listening that maybe hasn't liked our Facebook page, or that maybe you've got a friend that hasn't yet, we're at just shy of 2,000 likes. I know I'll be super happy when we hit that mark. It's an arbitrary mark, but 2,000 is still fun. It's exciting. So if you haven't liked us yet, come visit us on Facebook.
Indeed. All right. So moving right along again, I think. Are you guys ready to get to some dragony goodness?
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right. Now begins our discussion of How to Train Your Dragon 2. Toothless. Anyway, for those of you listening to the audio version of the show, you can't see me playing with my adorable dive-bombing action feature, Toothless. Wings in. Anyway.
That's awesome, Brad.
I'm totally a dork. I love that thing. What are
the
you
sound
holding
effect of a TIE fighter.
That's right. What are you holding up, Will? What is that?
I've got a foam sword I got from the first How to Train Your Dragon movie that kept all these, out these years, the last few years.
Nice.
But it's just my go-to.
Awesome.
And I need to slay a dragon that comes into my office. I've got something.
But we don't slay dragons anymore, Will.
Now we
train them. Hello. Hey, Jim and Mark, sorry, you probably didn't know it was going to be How to Train Your Dragon show and tell, did you?
No.
I have a Stanley Kubrick book here I can show if you want it.
All right.
I can put a harness on and pretend I'm a Viking.
Oh, that might be a different episode.
Except the only harness in our closet is mine, and it would be a little big on you, I think.
I could wear it.
Just cinch it up in the back.
Yeah.
All right, so How to Train Your Dragon 2. We're going to tackle this as we typically do by starting with the non-spoiler section. This is where we give a little bit of advice for those of you who may be on the fence about seeing this film. And if really you're on the fence about seeing this film, you're probably, I don't know, a little weird, because you should just go see it. It's pretty awesome. But now that I've alienated 3/4 of the people who listen to our show, Mark, what do you think? No spoilers. Is this movie worth the price of admission? And should people see it in theaters now? Should they wait for DVD Blu-ray? What do you think?
I think ultimately they're going to. I think people should go see this in the theaters. One thing I think that sets apart this film from other films like it, other CG, animated features, and not to rap hard on DreamWorks, but other CG features from DreamWorks, is they actually do have some really good character work and emotional work tied in with some characters that this film actually invests time in showing and showcasing, and they don't really shy away from it. It's not like, two people happen to like each other, for example. They really show you why, and you get a sense of the history, and the film is unique in that sense. It's a shame that it's unique in a sense. So I wish other films were like it. However, this one, it does showcase it, and it's actually part of my favorite bits of the film, I have to say. So in that, along with all the action that you would expect from the film, I think it's a definitely good family film.
Awesome. Good stuff. How about you, Will? What do you think?
I'm right there with you. I fell in love with the first film kind of out of nowhere. I took my nephew to go see the first film. We both loved it, loved the 3D, and so I've been looking forward to How to Train Your Dragon 2 quite a bit. As a sequel, it delivers. It takes the story to the next spot, the next logical conclusion of what happened in the first film. And Mark, to your point, one of the things that I love so much about this franchise is you hit the nail on the head when you talked about how the characters were built and how much care and attention were put into them. A lot of films, a lot of animated films, unfortunately rely on just ham-fisted pop culture references to draw their comedy or to make things funny or interesting. This film does not rely on those. All of the comedy, all of the emotional beats, everything is completely based on what the characters are doing and what is happening to them from outside forces. So from that standpoint, you're not going to have a bunch of references to a pop musician that's going to be obsolete in 2 years, or just silly things happening for the sake of them happening. Everything here is very much based on the characters. The 3D is just like the first one was really good. The CG looks really good. There's a lot of things where everything looks very just visually appetizing. There's a lot of style. There's a lot of flair. But at the same time, there's a lot of care given to the details. One very minor detail, it's not in the spoiler territory, is very early on you have a sequence where Hiccup's hair is braided by Astrid, just like 2 little braids in the back of his hair. And I looked throughout the rest of the film, and for the rest of that film, every time Hiccup appeared on screen, he had those 2 braids. They didn't fall away because of some continuity editor forgot what was going on, or the character designers didn't know what was happening. That to me showcased a lot of love and care for what was going on with those characters. We're going to talk a lot here in a moment about the storylines, the plots, the subplots, the action, and a few things as to why I think that this movie might also be very positive for a certain subset of children, and we'll talk about that in spoilers. But if I wanted to sum this all up under one thing, yes, you should go see this. You should go see this while it's in theaters, and I'd recommend the 3D because, unlike some films, I think it does add something to your viewing experience.
Now, when you're saying 3D, you're talking about stereoscopic, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I know different people have different screenings, different 3D options available to them. I unfortunately didn't have the full IMAX experience for this one. I had Alamo Drafthouse, and which is a smaller screen, but still quite good. There was a screening near us, I believe, at the IMAX that some of my friends were saying was just like blew them out of the water. I did not get a chance to see that one myself, but just what I did see on my screen impressed me.
Awesome. All right. How about you, Jim?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big love-in for this movie, Dragon love-in. But that's okay. I mean, I love the first movie. We bought it, the Blu-ray and all that. Kind of wish we had watched it actually before we went to see the second movie again, but we didn't fit it in. I think I want to go back and watch it, and before we go to see Dragon 2 again, which I definitely want to do. But I think I actually like this movie even more. And even though I have an issue with sequels, I think it's just my own issue in that in the original movie we get to this sense of discovery of this brand new and shiny and wonderful. It gives us wonder to discover it. In the sequel, although you'll get new things, that whole feeling is not really there. So they kind of make up for it in other ways. And I think this movie, though, is still a deeper, richer movie than the first movie. I thought the depth of the world building that this movie did was incredible. I mean, they expanded the world that we saw in the first movie. They expanded the characters that we knew from the first movie. The relationship, for instance, between Hiccup and Toothless. At the very beginning of the movie, when you see them, it doesn't necessarily pick up right where we left off. And this really isn't a spoiler either, is in the trailer. It's a few years down the line, and you can actually sense right from the get-go that these two have been very close the whole time, have kind of refined their relationship, and I just kind of loved how the movie portrayed that sense of relationship growth without having to bring you through flashbacks and all that stuff that other movies do that kind of cheapen it. We talked about the visuals. I think this movie, again, if I go back and watch the first movie, I think this movie is another step beyond what the first movie gave us, even though that was wonderful. I mean, some of those flight scenes in the first movie were like breathtaking, right? And in this movie, they're at least as good, if not better. A lot of the animation, and we'll get into some of the scenes that I thought like had my jaw on the floor watching them. This movie had brought in, I don't know if you guys saw that, but Dean and the project had brought in Roger Deakins.
I was going to mention that, yeah, and he's one of my all-time favorite cinematographers working today.
Yeah,
he was a visual consultant. I think he was a visual consultant for the first film as well.
Yeah, and you know that a guy like that has just an amazing vision because he's a cinematographer, right? That's what he does. And so he brings that vision somehow into the animation, whether it's how they move the virtual camera around. And Mark, you probably know a lot more about that and what makes that look as astounding as it does on the screen. But I just, great. The 3D, you guys mentioned it. I think it's well worth seeing in 3D. We'll get into more of the story and spoilers, what it does, what it doesn't do. I'll just say that, if you're a fan of the first movie, you have to see this movie. And if you haven't seen the first movie, go see it, rent it, find it on VOD, wherever you can find it, watch that, and then go see this movie. This was going to end up being, I think, one of the, for me, we've seen several blockbusters already this year. There's maybe a few left. To me, this goes a step beyond, for me, probably just about every blockbuster we've seen, and I've liked several of them. You mentioned Godzilla earlier. Some people liked it. Some people didn't like it so much. But I think this is probably my favorite summer blockbuster movie so far this year. I would just say go see it.
I would say go see it too. Okay, are we ready for spoilers? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. You guys have said a lot of the things that I would say, so I feel like it's just repeating a little bit to go through them again. I would just say I agree with much of what you guys say. I would just add that, for me, like, I don't know, it reminds me a lot of Star Wars in that A New Hope sort of sets up the world, right? You find out what this galaxy of that's far, far away is sort of all about. You get your indoctrination, and then Empire Strikes Back comes along, turns everything on its heel, totally fleshes things out, and it's awesome. And that's kind of the feeling that I get here with this film as well. I feel like the first movie really sets the stage. It's a great movie. It's one of my all-time favorite films. But for me, I mean, this one really blew it out of the water in comparison. I think the plot is a lot deeper. It deals with some more serious themes than the first one did, certainly. We'll talk about a lot of that in spoilers. This is where the audience takes a shot every time we say, we'll talk about that in spoilers. But it's a fantastic film. I think the visuals are incredible. We saw it in what we lovingly refer to as LIMAX, because it's not true IMAX, so it's a lie. They're lying.
But it's branded IMAX.
But it's branded IMAX. That's true. Still a really big screen. It's just not like the 3 or 4 story screen or whatever. But it was pretty amazing, like seeing it on that screen. I mean, the sound was incredible. The visuals were pretty fantastic. I don't know. I think you're right, Jim. It may be a bit of a love fest. I think there are some criticisms, loving criticisms, if you will, maybe that may come up a little bit later. But overall, for me, I mean, Chef had been my favorite film of the year until I saw this movie, and now it's taken the spot as #1 thus far. It doesn't mean it will stay #1. A lot of phenomenal films are coming this Oscar season, but man, this movie really just hit me in a lot of emotional places that I didn't expect from a kids movie, quite honestly. And I cried, I laughed, I cried some more, I laughed some more. I got angry. I got really, really angry.
Tense.
Tense, anxious. I swear, like, this thing took me like on a tour of every emotion I'm capable of having, and it's been a while since a movie has really been able to have that effect on me. So, Dean Dubois, if you're listening, God, man, awesome. Way to go. But, yeah, so I don't really think there's much else I can say that you guys haven't said already. Spoiler Town, you think? Are we ready?
I would just mention one thing, and Brad, you touched on it. I mean, a lot of people may see this movie or maybe catch wind of this movie and think, it's a kids movie. This one, even more than the first one, goes into some really, I would say, serious territory. I would say it may work as a kids movie, but I think it works most as just a really good movie for adults and any age. But so I guess all I'm saying is don't shy away from it if you typically would shy away from a kids movie just because it's an animated movie.
Right.
Well, it's like, I think you guys are all nailing it. I mean, especially with the first one, one of the things I really like about the first one is like, well, look at the environment these characters live in. I mean, there's dragons, people get hurt, and they don't shy away from it. And what happens at the end of the first one? Someone loses, a foot, basically, and so they don't shy away from it, and I appreciate stuff like that. And this one does that as well. It just continues reminding people this is the environment the characters are in, and this is where the story takes place.
Yeah.
Yep. And for me, there's sometimes a difference between like what I think of as like a kids movie, which is aimed for a very, very specific audience,
Despicable
and
Me.
a family movie, which is a movie that is accessible to anyone within that family. I saw it at a screening where there were probably everyone who's listening to this saw it at a screening where there were lots of families, people with their kids, etc. There was this one little family right behind me, and every time like one of those emotional touch points that Brad mentioned, something great happened, something sad happened. There was this little girl behind me. It's like, did that just? Oh my gosh! And the parents were like, okay, talk about it later, but this kid just had so many like vocal emotions, and it wasn't like like talking all the way through the movie annoying. It was just like honest to goodness reactions, and I'm experiencing those same things too. So it was great. Like me here in my 30s, and this kid like probably 5 or 6 are going through like this same emotional journey together. Like that's the sign of a good family film.
Absolutely. All right, guys, are we ready for spoilers? This is a good point to transition, you think?
I think so.
Yes, I'm seeing head nods.
Let's do it.
In the little thumbnails. Okay. All right. So, spoilers for How to Train Your Dragon 2 are inbound.
And How to Train Your Dragon.
And How to Train Your Dragon. Absolutely. Good point, Jim. If you have not seen either film and you value your innocence for the plots of these movies, now is your time to go have dinner for 45 minutes and then come back and catch our plugs, because even though they're at the end, they're still important. So yeah, here we go. Spoilers, totally fair game. Where do you guys want to start?
Let's start with the biggest emotional beat of the movie, maybe, or one of the two biggest, I guess, kind of related. There's a scene in the movie where Stoic, up to this point in the series, Hiccup's dad, is killed in a battle, actually by Toothless, and that scene was incredible. I mean, we had, Brad will tell you, we had similar to you, Will. We had a little family behind us with a girl. And she got so upset, she had to be brought out of the movie theater by her dad, and then brought back in later. And I'm like, and so, I mean, that's a little bit sad that this movie went kind of beyond this girl's, expectation or understanding. But Mark, you touched on it. This movie understands what real stakes are in a story, and this one definitely lays it down. It actually builds on the stakes of the first movie. You mentioned, Hiccup loses a leg in the first movie. In the battle scene, I mean, that really happened. He has to deal with that. He gets the prosthetic in place, which was kind of cool, but it's still, I mean, there's a real sense of loss that you get in this movie, kind of over and over. And Stoic's death was, not only did they kill Stoic in front of his son, but they had Hiccup's best friend actually kill him. And so that's pretty dark stuff. They didn't really deal with the emotional fallout, other than the funeral, of course, that we got, which was very sad, made me cry. They didn't really deal with the fact very much of the ongoing emotional baggage that Hiccup and Toothless are going to have, that he was the actual instrument that killed Stoic. I don't know. It would be, sounds kind of macabre, but I guess I would kind of want to see them deal with that, maybe in the third movie, to see if it has any long-lasting effects on either their relationship or just their psyche in general. But I give a lot of credit to a movie that knows its stakes, doesn't shy away from it. I mean, how many movies have we seen where someone dies in a movie right on the table? They code out, bleed out, whatever, and then like 2 or 3 scenes later, they magically come back by some trickery or whatever. It just, and this movie doesn't do that. It doesn't shy away from the stakes. Certainly, it's not the first time. I mean, ever since Bambi's mom got killed by a hunter, we've seen it in kids' movies.
For Bambi. Spoilers for Bambi.
Yeah.
Or The Lion King.
No, Dumbo. It's not the first time that it's happened, but lately it seems like children's movies just don't have the conviction or I don't know what the other word I'm looking for is to follow that through, and this one does, and so I applaud it for that.
No, that's my biggest beef with most kids' movies these days, is just they just sugarcoat and just hold their kids' hands just throughout the whole viewing. I remember as a kid, and I watched Wizard of Oz, it scared the crap out of me,
Yes.
And however, not to the point where I ran screaming from the living room. I stuck it out because I was interested. It was scary, but it wasn't petrifying, And now these days, you don't really get that really much ever. So that's one of the things I did like about Dragon 2. Is it just again, like, it stuck to its guns. This is the environment everybody's living in. This stuff, these bad things can happen, and unfortunately, we see it happen.
Right.
So,
it's
not nice, but it's good to see. It's good that it acknowledges it.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that scene was so crazy for me because, like, I mean, I'm an adult. I have pretty complex emotions, but a lot of the times my higher reasoning overrides my emotions and keeps things in check. But I tell you what, even though I knew Toothless was being controlled, when he killed Stoic, I felt hatred for Toothless, like in that moment. Like I knew intellectually, like it's not Toothless's fault. He's being controlled, but just I had this visceral like anger right along with Hiccup. And like I'm getting angry thinking about it again, even though I know it's not Toothless's fault. Like it was just such a raw, like emotional nerve for me, I guess. And you know, and then you know, Hiccup's mom is like, you know, it's not his fault. Like you have to remember. And Toothless is like, I know. And then it's like I started coming off the ledge at that point too. You know what I mean? And I appreciated that the movie wasn't afraid to take us there, but I was also thankful that we got that funeral scene to kind of like bring emotions back down to a baseline level again, and then sort of re-engage with what was happening, rather than like jumping right into something else happening. I think you know this movie does emotional beats so well, but I also think that it's paced in a way that it gives you time to sort of like grow and adapt with what's happening. And I think a lot of movies it's just bang 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 one thing after the other, and this movie just sort of masterfully sort of leads you along, I think.
Well, it allows you to process it. You know, I mean, it's not only with that, but with some other thing. Like I mean, I don't want to segue away from this discussion, but like you know, like one of the things that they allow people to process, and they really showed it at good length, is is when the Hiccup's parents were reunited, and they really stuck it in there and showed it. And that, to me, was the most interesting and the best part about the entire film, as far as I'm concerned. They actually spent time with it.
Yeah, and that's why the death of Stoic was so powerful.
Tragic.
This wasn't like a girlfriend in a refrigerator type situation where they just kill off a loved one for the sake of like raising emotional stakes. This is a relationship between Stoic and Hiccup that has built over 2 films. They butted heads over ideology in the first one, and even though Stoic learned a lot from Hiccup at the end of that second film, now they've got this debate over like you know whether you're going to be the chief or whether you're going to be the explorer. That builds to a head all the way up through this you know the other twist that you had mentioned, the reuniting between Stoic and Hiccup's mother, Valka, which was played exquisitely. Like I was expecting that sequence to turn into the same misunderstanding bullshit like you see a lot of times in these types of movies. Like, why did you go away so long? Hiccup saying, I don't want to be with you, Dad. I want to be with Mom now. Melodrama plays out. Everything's better at the end. This film didn't do that. There was, of course, a lot of complexity to the emotions that the characters had, but what I appreciated so much was once Valka and Stoic were there, they rekindled what they had. They fell back into that natural like love that they had for one another. They didn't play out like a fake melodrama there for the sake of doing it. They let the characters react naturally to the sequence. So all of these things are really firmly invested in character.
Yeah, I mean, between them, there was nothing else to discuss between them other than just, you know, I love you and missed you, and let's rekindle everything, you know. And of course, the movie did it far better than what I just described. But you know, however, it didn't really. It just bypassed all the unnecessary bullshit, which is good.
Right.
Which was nice.
I will say though, and this is one of my loving criticisms of the movie, I regret that the marketing was what it was in terms of revealing that this woman was Hiccup's mother, because I think it kind of stole a lot of the power that moment could have had when we get that reveal. So knowing that it was his mom, like right when the movie starts, I'm like, well, is the mom going to get back together with the dad, and what's going to happen there? And so kind of colored, I guess, my experience watching the movie. I don't know, did it work that way for you guys at all?
Not really. I mean, I think my loving criticism actually kind of stems with Hiccup's mom as well, because I thought she was one of the more interesting characters in the film. I think partially just because she was one of the newer characters in the film, right? And the film spent a lot of time showcasing her and also just introducing her, really. You know, very, very, very dramatically. You see her like flying up through the clouds, and then she's wearing this really, really spooky yet, you know, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just spooky.
Mask.
You're drawing math to it. A lot of time
yeah.
spent just introducing her and making her mysterious and just very, very interesting, which was great. And my lovingly criticism is that after we get to know her or we're introduced to her and the relationship is rekindled, and then all these battle scenes start to happen, she is almost useless in this movie.
Well, yeah.
Like she's not really utilized that much beyond that. It would have been nice to see her, I don't know, like engage more with the. You know, she's been studying these dragons for 20 years, and it seemed like none of her knowledge that she's learned with the dragons, she didn't really utilize any of that to help out any of the situations. It was just kind of like she was lost after that. That was my only criticism, unfortunately.
Yeah, she did kind of fade away a little bit toward the end when the plot, when they had to kind of advance the plot a little bit. They really didn't involve her, I guess, in a meaningful way, at least as far as I remember. And for me, I guess it's more of a missed opportunity than a criticism for me. But Brad, I do agree with you. I can only imagine what the impact would have been in the scenes where we see her first appear. First of all, we don't even know if it's a her or a guy or
exactly.
a man.
Yeah.
But we do because we saw the trailer, right? So instantly, at least when I saw her, I knew, okay, I know this is a woman, and I know it's Hiccup's mom, and this next 10 minutes is going to play out where we get to meet her. It's unfortunate, I think, and it was just a choice in marketing. It's not a fault necessarily of the movie, because I think it would have played it played fine, but I think it would have played even better not having that piece of information. So it was kind of an interesting choice to put that in the trailer. But like I said, that reminds me of one particular scene that kind of made the goosebumps raise on my skin, is when I think she kind of unmasks herself and she's talking to Hiccup in the cave, and all the other dragons are kind of behind her, and they kind of open their mouths, and they have they have the fire in their mouths, and it like lights up the whole scene. That was phenomenal. Yeah.
I was fortunate in that I'd only seen the first of the trailers, which was more of a teaser trailer. I didn't see the subsequent trailers that were, like your standard put together thing. So I didn't see that. I didn't know that Hiccup's mother was going to be in this one.
I'm the same way with you. I saw only the teaser, and that was it. Somehow,
and it was
I just didn't even get a chance to watch the trailer that came out just before the film was released. But to my benefit, I'm glad that I did in that regard.
Yeah, and when she takes off the mask, it's like, oh, that's a female. Oh, who is that? And oh, it's Hiccup's mother. Like it literally was something where like it wasn't telegraphed for me, even by the film itself. And then I read afterwards some people talking about it in the trailers, and I was like, oh man, that's a bummer that anyone.
Now
saw
I'm envious, if you will. You got the experience that I wish I had.
I wish I could share that experience.
Can you share with me?
Can we do a Vulcan mind meld, and you can just share that through the link?
You'll have to show me how off the air, Brad.
Okay, we'll meld. Okay. We'll meld. Don't worry, we can meld together. Will.
Is that what we did? Yeah. Cool.
But there were a lot of, besides that one scene where the dragons' mouths open and they're all like torches, I guess, in their mouths or whatever, there were a lot, and Mark, you mentioned this before, just a lot of attention to detail, both in the story and in the visual of the story. I mean, things like there was a scene where, I forget, two characters were talking, and you were totally drawn away from what they were talking about because Toothless and some other dragon were in the background playing with a stick.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that scene early on, but like just little touches like that. There's a scene where in the mother's scene where she's reintroduced to Hiccup and she's telling them the story about the night she disappeared and the scar on his chin. Just great little tiny moments that I thought really showed the level of dedication and detail that this project team did put into this movie. Which just make it a more richer experience.
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, the like I said earlier, the technology that was involved in making this project. I mean, you can tell. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. For me, I mean, it's hard. The thing is this. It's like, I try to pay attention to good camera work, which is a lot of what I do for a living. But good camera work, especially for like CG projects, for example, like this one. as a layout artist, which they primarily own the camera work, if your camera work is known, let me backtrack. If basically the viewers notice your camera work, you've done your job incorrectly, because the camera work needs to be invisible, and its sole purpose is to help propel the story forward. So you should just be lost and immersed into the world. And I was. I mean, especially like the flying sequences, a lot of that stuff just felt very, very natural. It didn't feel like someone was trying to simulate naturalism. It just kind of worked, and not only with that, but the lighting was exquisite in it, and also just I touched up on the physics, like the water, the snow, when they were bouncing around in the snow. I mean, it just looked fantastic, and the ice, the hair simulation, the cloth simulation, all that was just pretty spot on. So kudos to DreamWorks for that, for sure.
Definitely. And I was absolutely blown away by all the stuff, like you had mentioned, Jim, like in the background, the scenes where just like you would just see two dragons running by doing something. And it was done in a way that was like felt very organic. Like, this is something Toothless would do. This is something these characters would do. It didn't feel like it was a gag or it was a put upon thing to impress the kiddos. This was something where it's like, well, we've got these characters in this scene. Hiccup and Astrid are going to be sitting here talking. Are the dragons just going to be sitting in the background? No, they're going to be having fun. They're going to be running around. They're going to be interacting as well. So I felt that, again, it's just like it's all about the characters coming to life on the screen in such a way that, again, like you mentioned, Mark, like I didn't feel like I was stopping and seeing like, someone purposefully move the camera here, someone purposely move these characters there. It felt very organic and natural to the story, and that's what I just love about cinema. That's what just sucks me in.
If it's done right, you don't even notice anything.
Right. Nothing in this movie visually felt like a trick shot. It just was like, wow, like that's crazy. The other thing I wanted to mention was oh God, what was it now? I forgot what I was going to say. Here we go.
Was it Goddard?
What? In mind.
No, there was a moment when before we met the mom where Toothless and Hiccup are separated for like the first time in the movie. By, I forget what it was another dragon, or she takes him, a couple of dragons lift him off of Toothless, and Toothless, without his control, like spirals into the ocean. I mean, in that scene, I got a real sense of tension. We talk about how movies give us, move us in a way. I mean, this moved me in a way where I was like, yeah, maybe if my logical mind had kicked in, I'm like, well, nothing bad's going to happen to Toothless. This is his movie. But at that moment, I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? These two are separated. I felt a real sense of tension and danger there. Just some really good stuff in that scene.
Good character development. It's like, again, and you touched on it earlier. You watch this film and there's no, retarded flashbacks or anything like that. It's like you already understand these characters and you know how what makes them tick, their nuances, everything. And so there's just no explanation needed. You just move forward. I mean, it's like, I don't want to compare it to like Harry Potter films, but it's like the Harry Potter films. You know these characters inside and out, no explanation needed, just move forward with the story.
Yeah,
right.
And so when Toothless is separated from Hiccup, and you know that Toothless needs Hiccup so he can fly, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Once that separation happens, you're like, oh dear God, what's going to happen? No explanation needed. You just know that they have to be together, otherwise something bad's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When they're in the air, at least.
Go ahead, Will.
I was going to say, that reminded me of another point, something that I think is I probably intentional, but another thing that I love so much about this film is I think that we've got two main characters, and we're in the spoiler section, one villain, all of whom are extremely capable, intelligent, strong characters who all have a very serious physical handicap. So I'm not a parent, but I am an uncle, and I know what it's like for a kid to have something that they can look up to. And I would imagine that this is the type of film that if you are the parent of a kid with a disability, or if you're a kid with a disability itself, here's some very strong role models in a movie doing fantastic things with these very dramatic physical disabilities, but doing so in a way that's not again, not maudlin, not ham-fisted, not over the top. Like, you can do everything too. It's very natural, organic, and exciting. And so that's something else I love about this movie. Like, it's very uplifting in that regard.
Well, they made it natural. Like, I mean, yes, they have a handicap, but then they say, well, we can continue our lives if we go ahead and and deal with it in this way. And they're all creative ways, and ways in such that now they're now a part of these characters, and you don't really think about it.
And it even makes it cool in some ways. Like, there's a scene where, like, Gobber goes to this contraption, right? And he starts, like, spinning through all these drawers of, like, arm attachments that he has. And then he's, like, picking through different ones, and then he's like, oh, yeah, this one. And then he puts it on, and it's like, I kind of want an interchangeable hand with a million different attachments. Like, that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like, made me a little jealous. I was like, maybe I should cut my hand off. But then I was like, oh, wait, right, this is real life. Maybe, not so much. But yeah, no, I think it's a very positive message, and I love that as well. I think that's, I don't know. I think we don't get enough of that. I mean, when was the last time you really saw a character with a physical, ailment really be like the main hero of a film? I mean,
right.
And here's the other thing.
Almost everybody in this movie has something, has their burden, and has somehow overcome it. And I think that's a good message, and I hope the movie, in future sequels or whatever, continues to kind of subtly make that point, without being too on the nose. And I think this movie does walk the line there and does it very well. Speaking of that kind of thing, I guess this would have to come up. What did you guys think of the Gobber, quote-unquote, coming out scene?
I think people are making way too much out of that for what it was.
Yeah.
Making too much in what way?
Huh?
Well, I mean, everyone, like, well, not everyone. That's a gross generalization. A lot of people who have seen this film have been all over Facebook and Twitter, and they're like, oh my God, like, Gobber, comes out, he has this big coming out moment, we totally know he's gay, and blah, 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 and he makes this, and I'm just kind of like, okay, yes, you can read into that comment, and yeah, you know what, maybe, I don't know, but maybe it was added as like a nod, like, yeah, okay, let's acknowledge Gobber is gay, and that's fine. But the way a lot of people are talking about it is that, like, he comes right out and says, hey, I'm a sword swallower, and to me, it wasn't really that moment. You know what I mean? It seemed more of a throwaway winky line, and not a stoic and hiccup, guess what? I'm gay. I don't know. I just think it's not quite what people are making it out to be.
I think it touches up on also, like we were talking earlier about just how great this film is with relationships. And one of the things about relationships are the surprises. Every now and then, Brad and June, I'm sure once in a blue moon, you find out something about the other person. You're like, I had no idea that was a part of you, for example. So, case in point, Hiccup had no idea that Toothless, if you rub Toothless a certain way, all of a sudden he sprouted all these new things in his body, right? Now he's able to fly even better, right? Case in point with Toothless's dad and this character whose name I keep forgetting that we're just talking about. Gobber, they've been buddies. They've been, together for years. And never knew about this as well,
Good friends.
Yeah, they're good friends, and it's just sometimes things come out like that, and
right.
And the way it was done in this film, it was just happened at the right time when it did happen. It just kind of flowed correct, If you're going to do it,
It was very subtle, and so I read a little bit about how this came about, and what happened was Craig Ferguson, the character?
Craig Ferguson, yeah.
He was in the studio and he's recording the voice part for Gobber, and he's doing the script, but he's also going off script and he's ad-libbing, as actors tend to do during those. It might be 3 or 4 or 5 takes that they're doing on this one sequence, and he kind of goes off script and he throws this line in like, first of all, Mother and Stoic are arguing, and he says, oh, that's the reason I didn't get married, and he says, well, that and one other reason. And that's it. That's all he says.
Yeah.
And he it never even gets acknowledged by anybody, I don't think, any of the other characters. But what happened was, after Dean decided to leave that ad lib in the movie, when he went to Cannes for the festival showing of this movie, in an interview he actually let out that, oh, Gobber does actually come out as gay in the movie. And that's, I think, what made it shone the spotlight on it. I bet if that interview hadn't happened, I don't even think anybody would notice that line, to be honest.
It's possible we'd be on this call right now, like, saying, like, do you think that's what he meant? I bet you that's what he meant. Nah, that's not what he meant. That's what I like so much about it, is that it was such a subtle line. Like, they could have easily stopped, shown a spotlight on him, and said, just so you know, I'm gay. And also, kids, that's okay. Or whatever message they wanted to do. But they didn't. This is a film about natural reactions. Yeah, this is a film about characters just responding naturally. Gobber is the type of character who always has something to say. He's always throwing some sort of little line in. And in this case, he threw in a little line about something that I would imagine that maybe some of the characters even knew already, but there were other things going on, and so they didn't like stop and make a big deal about it. They just moved on. It was a very natural part of these characters' interactions. And again, I keep saying the word natural. That's my, like, take a shot word of this episode, but that's what ties this film in so closely to my heart, is just how everything felt. As for a CGI movie about dragons and Vikings, like how real everything felt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one thing we have not talked about yet, how do you feel about our villain of the film? I'm amazed. We haven't talked about like half the movie.
Was there a villain? Really?
It was. Yeah, I know, right? Crazy. So we had the good alpha and apparently the evil alpha, and of course our villain of the film. Did that work for you guys at all?
Yeah, I think it worked enough. I don't, you know, I guess when I think of this movie, the villain isn't what I kind of my memory goes back to. I think it worked enough for the story and for the characters. He was menacing enough, and crazy enough, and obviously caused enough havoc to be a good villain. But was it a, you know, standout, oh my god, like the Joker in The Dark Knight villain? No, not like that.
What stood out for me was just his battle cry. I mean, honestly, it was interesting. I haven't really seen that in a villain, well, for a kids movie but I think Jimmy nailed it. I mean, it's like, and it's part of like beyond the relationship stuff, which I love so much about this film. You know, when it got to the villain and they got to the battle stuff towards the end of the film, even though it was done so well, it just wasn't as interesting to me as everything else.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. Like, I mean, when I talk about this movie, it's almost all positives. I would say the villain was a small mark against it for me. He wasn't a bad villain, not at all. There was a lot of interesting things there, but when I rank that villain up against the other characters in the film, I was less interested in seeing what he was doing. I wanted to go back and see the other characters as well. So maybe maybe they could have done a little more with the villain to make him as interesting. Maybe they downplayed him a little bit so that the relationship could be the star of the film, and maybe that's why we're gushing so much about it. So it's a little hard for me to relate to that or to figure that out in retrospect. But yeah, I would say the villain was one of the two characters that I thought was maybe a little weaker than he needed to be. The other one was newcomer Eret, voiced by Kit Harington.
Right.
Is that Jon Snow?
Jon Snow.
Yeah, you know nothing, Eret. Yeah, this was a character who I don't know what he was doing in the film. There was nothing wrong with the character. I liked that there was like some play between him
a little
and
comic relief.
Yeah, a little comic relief, a little bit of like the Kristen Wiig rough nut character, like fell in love with him, and that was kind of cute. But there at the end of the film, it felt like they had this character that was in the storyline that they didn't know what to do with. So they probably, you probably could have left Eret on the cutting room floor and been okay.
Unless he plays a big role in the third movie as a reformed, dragon killer / hunter, now a rider.
He's an ally now, isn't he not?
Yep.
He is an ally. And this is supposed to be a trilogy, correct?
Yeah.
At least. I don't know what the plans are. Maybe the studio is waiting to see, performance-wise before they decide. I thought that I heard somewhere that they were maybe sitting back and seeing how they were going to structure the third movie based on how this one did or something. I don't know. That may be just hearsay.
I called it. I thought it was just a ridiculous article. I think it was probably even this morning when I was at work, when I was supposed to be working. I was actually reading this article instead, and it was talking about how people were concerned how Dragon 2 did not perform as well as they thought they was going to over the weekend, even though it made $50 million.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and so the stockholder and investors primarily are like, well, we were expecting certain numbers, but still it's like, guys, it's $50 million. And especially now if the word of mouth continues to be as positive as it is, it's just going to hopefully keep doing better and better.
And part of it you have to consider, it also opened, against 22 Jump Street. And granted, they're two very different types of movies, but like, if you can only see one movie in the weekend and you're an adult, I don't know. Unless you have kids, you may go see the adult movie, you know what I mean, opening weekend versus this kind of movie. I wouldn't make that choice, and I didn't make that choice, but some people would.
The word is that just like the first one did not have a huge opening at the movie theater. It had a very soft opening, but it ran for a long time. It had a long run where it made its money, not all at once like a huge opening weekend. And yeah, maybe the expectation for this one is that it would open much longer, but I think it's going to be fine. There's really nothing other than sometime in July the Planes movie comes out, but there's really nothing kind of in this genre that's going to challenge it in the next several weeks. So I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be fine.
The first Dragon, isn't that the #1 film money maker for DreamWorks?
It may be. I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't bet my life savings on that, but I think I read somewhere that it might be.
Yeah, not sure. Well, before we move on to some plugs, I had one final thought I wanted to get in, and then you guys can get yours in too. We've been talking a lot about Godzilla on the show today for some reason. What did you guys think of the Godzilla homage when Toothless, like, his scales light up like blue and he shoots the blue fire bolts? Like, was that a Godzilla reference, you guys think, or am I reading too much into it?
Honestly, that thought did not even cross my mind once. But now that you mention it, it's interesting. But
having just seen Godzilla, the movies were in development at the same time. I don't know if there was any like cross-pollination there or anything, but it seemed like kind of an homage. You got this lizard thing that's has this hidden power that his like you said, Brad, his scales start to glow with this kind of St. Elmo's fire blue thing, and then he shoots the blue fire. I thought that was really cool. I got a real thrill out of that. That was really Toothless's big moment to kind of redeem himself after the tragedy that happened before. It was really thrilling to see that. I loved it. I also loved the way when he flew at certain moments, I know that they used the TIE fighter sound effect.
They did.
In some of those scenes. I mean, it sounded exactly like the TIE fighter flying by, like when he would zoom by.
Well, when you do your sound mixing at Skywalker Ranch, I'm sure it has certain benefits.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They have a vault of all that stuff, I can tell you that right now, yeah.
Wow.
Did you guys notice I noticed the score in several moments. I thought it was very well done.
Man, amazing score.
Love that score. And I thought this one was just enough of a variation on it to kind of stand on its own, but still have the same motif behind it that the first one had. That same kind of basic melody or motif or whatever you want to call it in there. But it was just different enough, I think, to stand out on its own. I can't wait to give it a listen when I have a chance.
Oh.
Yeah, fantastic score. I'm going to have to buy it. It's pretty incredible. Thank you for reminding me to go buy it, because it's pretty amazing. So, all right, guys, any other final thoughts before we move on to plugs?
No, I just think, I just hope this movie does well. I'm already almost as excited as I was, after I saw the first movie for the next movie. I have no idea. I could maybe do some research into when they think this will come out. What has it been, like 4 years?
Yes.
I just think we don't have to wait 4 years.
The first one came out in 2010, yeah.
Yeah.
hoping we don't have to wait 4 years. But hey, if it takes another 4 years to make another great sequel like this one was, then I'll wait.
That's right. You'll wait and you'll like it.
I was gonna just
Sir,
give
yes,
another.
sir.
I was going to give another shout out to like basically everybody that I know at DreamWorks that did work on this movie, because making these things takes a long, long time. So 4 years is probably average, give or take a year or two. It's just an excruciating amount of work, from the writing to the technology and it's just a lot of work. And these people put in many, 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 many hours onto this thing.
Yeah.
So kudos to everybody and just a job well done.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And when you
guys
see
did
that
amazing.
level of detail come through like this, and it's obvious the amount of effort they went into it, and you want that for the next movie too. So, hey, like I said, takes 4 years. I'm good.
That's right.
This is a team
That's
of filmmakers who, at least for me as an audience, like, I don't feel like people sat around and made a film because they were trying to get paid or they were trying to get their next paycheck. Like, this felt like, whether, I never know what's going on behind the scenes, but the final product to me came across like a labor of love. And as an audience member, that's exactly what I want at the movies.
Well, you nailed it, because, a lot of my friends that I know that work at DreamWorks, both, there's two facilities. There's one in Glendale, and then there's one in the San Francisco area. And some people, a lot of times, people don't get to pick and choose what projects that they get assigned onto at DreamWorks. They're just, okay, you're going to be working on, Turbo. You're going to be working on this or what have you. And so I know a lot of people who were not assigned to work on Dragon 2 were very upset because they just wanted to work on it.
Aww.
And I also know that the people that did work on Dragon 2 were basically telling everybody that they know that are friends on Facebook, go see this movie. Seriously, it's that good. And these are people who could easily be very jaded, and they all were very, very cheerleading about Dragon 2.
That's awesome.
As they should
That's
be.
awesome.
All right, guys. Well, here we go. Let's move on to some plugs. This is the part of our show where we tell you about fun things we want you to check out, or give you a little info on how to connect with us personally. It's that part of the show that's all about us. So, Mark, why don't you kick us off? Anything you want to tell us?
Well, we're pretty much finishing up this project, this little game called Destiny. I think it's Activision's most expensive game. But it comes out, I think, September 9th. But there's some really good quality stuff in there. I basically was part of the in-game cinematics teams, and so we try to make everything as filmically kosher as possible, and I think we did a very good job with it. But I don't want to talk about Destiny too much, because I was going to talk about Birdman, but I'm not going to steal Jim's thunder. So.
We will talk about it.
But there is a trailer that I've seen a few times that I do want to see. It's this movie called Coherence. And it's basically, it's this little low-budget kind of sci-fi film, and it's about a group of people at a dinner party, from what the trailer, and basically they're just, as you do, you're just talking about random things, and apparently there's a comet that's scheduled to go overhead at a certain point in time during this dinner party. So they got to talk about other, comic-related things, and this one was talking about how, at least our character was talking about that there's a story that she heard about, like in some town, like not even in the United States, where a comet went overhead, and everybody started to just lose their coherence about certain things, especially like with how they're related to their relation with other people. Like some woman just thought she had, was wondering why her husband wasn't dead, because she could have sworn that she killed him, So they're talking about all this stuff, and then the lights go out, and the comet went overhead, and then everybody starts to...
Then the fun starts.
Yeah, then the fun starts. So I was watching this trailer, and it really piqued my interest in wanting to see it. So that's my plug.
Mark, I had a chance to actually screen that one last September.
Oh, did you?
It's really... Yes, it's really, really good. Yeah, I won't say anything about it because it's piqued your interest, but it's good pick. It's a good movie.
Yeah, and the trailer's good because it doesn't really tell a lot, but that's kind of like the gist that I got from it. I could be totally off my mark on that, on basically how I described it. So, but that's
Nice.
No,
All right.
yeah, that works. Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right. Awesome, Mark. Jim, what do you got this week?
Oh, well, let's see. Have any of you guys seen this trailer for this movie called Birdman?
What? I've never
Wait,
heard of
what?
that at
Huh?
all before. What is that? I don't
Birdman?
know.
Anyway, it's a pretty awesome trailer. I saw it several times. I kept watching it because it's so good. I love the tone and feel of this thing. It's a movie about, I guess, about a washed-up actor played by Michael Keaton. He is haunted, I guess, by his past, where he portrayed a famous superhero character called Birdman, and I think it's about his struggles with his retirement and his ego, and he's trying to revive his career. This looks like it could be a really big comeback movie for a guy like Michael Keaton, who we've seen in a few movies. We saw him in Need for Speed,
RoboCop.
yeah, and RoboCop, the new RoboCop. This movie also has some cool co-stars. Zach Galifianakis, maybe. I don't know what kind of a role he's going to play in this, but we know what kind of role he normally plays. I'm looking to see him play, maybe. I'm hoping that they play him against type a little bit. Edward Norton, Emma Stone, Naomi Watts, a great cast. Directed by the guy, let me see, I got his name here. Alejandro Gonzalez.
Correctly. Yeah, it's
Inarritu.
Yeah.
He did 21 Grams. He did Babel. Some really awesome movies. I don't know, Mark. You saw this one. What did you think of it?
Oh, I loved it. When I first saw it, I wasn't sure who directed it, and so I had to look it up. And then it was like, oh, okay, because I don't know I've only seen 2 of the director's films that he's done so far, and so I don't really know his style per se just yet. But I did it. But nonetheless, the film looked interesting. That it didn't look like anything that I'd really seen recently, and but I was happy to see that he's taking on something a little bit different. I loved Amoris Peros a lot. Babel, not so much. But I do respect his work.
Yeah.
And so this one does look very, very interesting. Yeah, it piqued my interest for sure.
Check it out, guys. It's called Birdman. I guess the movie opens up this fall in October. It could get a lot of attention. It could ride through the Oscars. We'll see.
I hope it's not like Condor Man.
Huh?
I hope it's not like Condor Man, if you remember that movie from the 80s.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't remember that one, but Will's laughing, so I assume it was terrible.
It was
something.
Yeah. It was a thing.
Yeah.
That happened.
All right. Birdman, awesome. Yeah, it's a great trailer. I'll be interested to see if the movie lives up. Hopefully it will. But
Yeah.
I do like Michael Keaton. So, all right, Will, what have you got this week?
So my plug is actually something that we mentioned briefly earlier on the show. This is a really rough weekend in terms of choosing what movie to go watch, because 22 Jump Street also opened this weekend, and this is another sequel to a movie that, just like with How to Train Your Dragon, 21 Jump Street was a film that I think ended up being better received than people maybe thought it would be going into it. Like, it kind of came out of nowhere, blew up, became really popular. So I had a chance to see both films this weekend. Man, I was glad that I was able to do it. 22 Jump Street is as funny, if not funnier, than the first, which is quite the accomplishment for what really could have been a crappy movie, what really could have been just a throwaway film based on a kind of a cheesy, nostalgic show. But this film plays with a lot of meta jokes about, like, it's very self-aware as to, like, what type of film it is and what type of relationships the characters have. It's funny. I laughed all the way through it to the point where my throat was sore at the end of it. That's, for a comedy, that's the litmus test. So it's one of those things where it's hard to say, like, if you can only see one this weekend, which one should you see? Man, try to see both, because they're both films that are worth seeing. And it's just a shame that they both open at the same time, because I think some people are going to be forced to choose.
Yeah.
But could it possibly be any funnier than A Million Ways to Die in the West, Will?
Let's see. It was about 1 million times better.
Wow.
Well, I don't know about that. No, that's playing off the number. No, it was. I found that a lot of the jokes in Million Ways to Die were very far spaced in between, very forced and ham-fisted. A lot of the jokes in this. I mean, this is the same writing and directing crew that did the first 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie. They've got their fingers on the pulse of like what makes a comedy movie work for modern audiences. So this is the right team for the right film at the right time. It all works.
Nice.
These guys are good directors. They also, the guys that directed 22 Jump Street also did the first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And
Yes.
if you've seen that, it's very, very, it's like a fun, silly movie, and it's done very well.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the Lego movie, nice layup shot / segue there for me, Will. The Lego movie is out on Blu-ray. Everything is awesome. So if you didn't get a chance to see this film, hello, Poe. If you didn't get a chance to see this film while it was in theaters, now is a great time to check it out. Really, really love this movie. I know, Jim, it was kind of a yawner for you, but I really liked it. Again, a lot of really great visuals. Thought it had a fun story. But, yeah, definitely check that out. And I've got 2 plugs. I'm double plugging this week.
Oh, hey.
I want video.
Oh my! So we had a really, really awesome discussion this week on Movie Bears Podcast TV, all about the Game of Thrones finale for season 4, the first several episodes of season 2 of Orange is the New Black, as well as a really cool new series called Halt and Catch Fire on AMC, all about the 80s computer race with IBM and a fictional company. And anyway, it's an interesting show, but we had a really, really freaking awesome discussion last night. I'm actually, I don't know, I think it's one of our best episodes of that show ever. A lot of great stuff to talk about. It's up right now on our iTunes and Stitcher feed, so definitely check it out. Am I Canadian now? I don't know where that came from. But yeah, so that's my other plug. That's my double plug.
Brad, I actually listened to that this morning at work.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah, it was definitely a fun listen.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I hope I didn't oversell it. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed listening.
Yes.
All right.
Probably a lot of spoilers in there for Game of Thrones.
Well, it doesn't matter because I haven't seen the damn episode. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Mark, it was totally awesome having you on the show with us this week. And if there are ever any other movies you want to come back, they don't have to be CGI works of art.
No, I had a blast. I mean, the time flew by. So just let me know. I'd love to be a part of this again. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, glad you had fun. We certainly enjoyed it. And for those of you who stuck with us through the live cast, we've been watching you guys come in and out. Our eyes are on you. Please remember, you can always, give us your comments or questions. We're happy to reply to those on air. You guys are kind of quiet lately. Get with it. All right. Well, anyway, thanks so much for tuning in this week, guys. And I'm not sure what we're doing next week yet. What's
double
coming
plugging for sure.
I'm gonna have to do some stretching this weekend, I guess.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look at the movie calendar and see what's going on.
That's right. Maybe we circle back to 22 Jump Street. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe.
But all right, guys. Have a good week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.